You're watching NFT Talk Photography with Brick Astley. GM, welcome to NFT Talk. I'm your host, Brick Astley. The purpose of this talk show is to talk one-on-one art on exchange art. Today's guest is a traditional and digital artist based out of Detroit, Michigan, apparel, fine art, lifestyle brand, educator of fine arts, and mural applications. Wedico Works. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Of course, man. Happy to be here.
Hey, man, you are such a legend in the space, multi-talented artist. You're a muralist, you're a painter, a lifestyle brand, and photographer. Can you tell me how this all came to be as Wedico?
Wedico was a phrase I learned reading back in my high school days. And going into college, I started writing Wedico as a graffiti artist, hitting the streets at night, and it just kind of became like my persona. I was never like that into graffiti or really blew up in that scene at all, but it was just like everybody was going out at night and had a name, and that one just kind of fit for me. So I would write that on the streets, and for a while I would do more of my wild art. I would sign at Wedico, and I would sign my more traditional paintings as my last name, which is Danley. Like it was just kind of go back and forth, and at one point in time, it just seemed natural to kind of just go all in with the Wedico brand. And it started to get really serious when I was starting to get into full-time mural art.
Can you tell me the definition of the name Wedico? You alluded to that it had a definition before.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult for me to really specifically speak on because it is coined by Native Americans. Wedico specifically comes from Korean mythology, but it's basically would describe colonization to a T as like a spiritual disease, as opposed to civilization or capitalists coming over and like raping and pillaging the land. It would out of a destruction nature. It was like more of a spiritual disease, like they were sick, and that was why they were so destructive. And that really just kind of clicked with me. It kind of changed my worldview, and I really liked that aspect. Like it was kind of this uncontrollable disease of why modern civilized humans are so destructive. And I wanted people to kind of like learn about that or look into that, and that's kind of why I started writing it all over the place.
Hey, thank you for that. That's pretty interesting history on it, and to know the history on it. You have a few series here on exchange art. Can you tell me how you came to Web3 and exchange art?
Yeah, I mean, just this past winter, I had kind of a lull in my murals. I was painting some pieces for gallery shows and trying to make ends meet. And a cousin of mine is a pretty big time developer, like really smart. He's been mining Bitcoin for years, and just I asked him, I was like, "What's going on here? Like, where should I be looking? How do I get into this NFT space?" I figured it would be super easy for me to be taken advantage of, just like browsing YouTube channels and like just kind of like um, shooting in the dark. And he's like, you know what, I think that you should just go straight to Solana. Um, I had like all the research I had done was just very specific Ethereum talk, and and all of the peers that I look up to, like in the mural arts, and a lot of the big time artists that I admire were all on ETH, so that's just where I was looking. But he's like, no, the future Solana, like look into Solana, and that's what I did. I just obviously found exchange art right away, and started looking into collectives. I do really well in like a community setting, so I looked into the URS and started networking in those communities.
It's pretty interesting. All of the contemporaries are going right, and you decide to go left and come over to the Solana and exchange art, and you find some pretty amazing success. The ADA series has done 264.94 in sold volume. Congratulations on that. It's pretty fantastic.
Thank you.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the Edith series?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when I first came into the space, I didn't have any strategy. I didn't know what I was doing, and I minted a couple pieces, and um, Exchange like spotlighted me right away. And the couple pieces sold, and I was kind of blown away. They were really cheap, they weren't like high priced or anything, and they sold. I was like, oh, this is crazy. So I listed like five more or something, and those started to sell slowly, and it was like at first I was just minting all this old work I've done over the course of my career. So it was kind of all over the place, and a few people kind of like pulled me aside and saw they're like, you have a lot of potential, like A2K, primitive money, just some like pretty respectable people were like trying to show me like the strategy, and they're like, treat this like you would in your real life career, like be conscious of supply and demand, be conscious of like organization and with your collections and things like that. Um, and so that's what Edith really became. It was kind of my first like official project in the NFT space. I was really inspired by the like a lot of the PFP projects and just kind of where all the buzz was. And I wanted to kind of do my take on like fine art, but that was a bust, was like a head, shoulders, like just kind of your standard PFP style. But I wanted each one to be really unique, and be considered like fine art. And another thing is my style's all over the place. I do abstracts, portraiture, like lowbrow. I mean, I get inspired by all kinds of things. And so I wanted a collection like this that could stay consistent. I could do 100 of them, but each time I'm inspired by something else. I can sit in my studio and just like, I can do a crazy abstract Edith, or I can do a really realistic portrait style Edith, or I can get paper and collage something. So it gives me a lot of freedom to play and stay really inspired and motivated, but also have something really consistent at the same time.
I really like that, finding like your stride here with the Ediths, being in the NFT space. And what did it mean to you to have like like Primitive Money or A2K like come in and take you under their wing for their to have that advice given?
I mean, at the time, I didn't really know them. Like, I didn't really know their place within Solana, like this hierarchy of maybe like influence and wealth or developer. Like everybody I'm meeting, I'm trying to like sit down and have one-on-one meeting with. Like I was just kind of taking it all in. Um, so it means more now, like looking back. And when I was just getting into it, I mean, I was just grateful that they would take the time and kind of talk to me. And um, I want to mention Q too. Q was another big one, like from Particles. He sat down with me right away too, and we talked about, it was before Particles even minted, and we talked about the future of one-to-one art in Solana, and it just gave me a bunch of fuel. I just respect all those guys so much.
What do you think the future of one art looks like, whether it's on Solana or other blockchains?
I think that I think Solana will kind of catch up to Ethereum, and it will just kind of be like the whole cross-chain future, I think is bright. Um, but I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see like some of these collective DAOs who are able to kind of purchase more expensive art and like watch. I feel like there's only a handful of artists that are really like making like serious livable wages, or like really getting their worth on Solana. You see a lot of Ethereum where people are really making good money off their art, and I feel that every artist should be doing really well for themselves. So I'm excited to see it kind of catch up in Solana. There's so much talent on exchange art of people that they do well for themselves, but I'm sure they're still struggling to kind of make a living from it. As am I. Like I would be considered one of the, not that high up, but I'm a fairly successful artist on exchange, but like I'm still really struggling to make ends meet and figure it all out. So I'm excited for the marketplace to kind of catch up and everybody to really thrive.
What do you think it would take for like to close that gap for like fine art on Solana to catch up, to close that gap with Ethereum? Is it pulling more of the ETH liquid and collectors over, or is it like Is Solana how we're going to onboard more of the traditional art scene?
I don't know. That's a really interesting question. That's kind of, I think that Solana will speak for itself as better tech, like as kind of a better blockchain in my eyes. And I think that naturally more people getting into the space, it'll just grow naturally, just like Ethereum did, and just like pretty much any blockchain. Um, it is really fascinating though. I mean, you see like just recently that Kath came over and did that auction, and a lot of us were expecting that ETH money to come through is because everybody in that community would know of her, and it just didn't happen. So there's this like kind of mental barrier between the two blockchains. Um, and I'm really hoping that I feel like Solana will just kind of evolve as its own. Instead of looking at ETH to bring people and liquidity over, I think that it'll just naturally grow. And um, crypto and NFTs in general is such a small percent of like global marketplace for people who are investing and collecting. So as more people onboard into the crypto world in general, like I think that Solana will be shinier and prettier in the long run.
Do you think the adoption is going to be happening over the course of like next couple years, decade? Because we just hit a lot of people were saying bare bottoms here when Bitcoin went to the low 20,000, and then Solana dipped down to like 25. So do you think we're more at the low end? What do you think long term?
Man, I don't know. I'm like a not the best person there's like obviously a lot of hype and speculation. I'm so new in the space that like, I just recently came in and Sol was, above 100, and everybody was, I caught like the very, very end of like a really nice bull run, and it's been a struggle ever since. But I can't help but think that like this bottoming out and then just go, kind of go to the moon from there. That's kind of my optimism around it all. I think that more and more people, more bigger businesses, and it's like the NFT and crypto is becoming a lot more commonplace for talking in the real world. Everybody that I know personally are very interested in what I'm doing in the space, because my collectors in my community that don't have any idea what an NFT even is are starting to ask those questions. They've seen me in it for 6 months now or whatever, and they're like, well, they want to know more. So I feel like as that develops all over the place, it'll really skyrocket from there.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So multimedia and artist, you have some photography available under the Oki 2 Portraits brand. Can you talk to me a little bit about some of the photography here? What brought you to kind of this alt style of portraiture? And can you talk to me a little bit about the goals with the collection of these portraits?
Yeah, I think that as of right now, I've shot portraiture throughout my entire painting career, but it never really resulted in anything. A lot of it was just kind of how I met people and had fun. I would link up with a model, or sometimes in groups, like a couple photographers, a couple models would walk around some of these abandoned buildings in Detroit and just shoot some cool, edgy photography. But it was just something creative to do, get outside the house. But in the NFT space, like I feel like it's really the best marketplace, the best opportunity for now digital artists, digital illustrators, photographers, like now have this place that they can really showcase their work and really grow. So I'm definitely really, really focused on my painting and everything, but I want to still offer that up to people who are into photography. I think that I really like to share my work. And that's kind of why I separated the two brands. I didn't want to diminish what I was doing in the painting world, or like put on any red flags for any of my big collectors for my paintings. Like I just wanted to like keep it really simple there, and then have a whole nother brand, I would say, to kind of focus on photography. And I would like to keep it relatively affordable. It's all, as of right now, it's all older work. I'm slowly just re-editing when I'm feeling like editing some photos and putting it up for a low cost for people to slowly collect. I think in the future, as I build that brand out, I would like to do much more like specific NFT projects that, that I do all the work for that are in the photography space, and probably do auctions and raise that price up a little bit. But as of right now, it's kind of a collection of everything I've been shooting over the past 15 years.
I love the collection. It's dynamic, it's strong and fierce. I love it. Can you talk to me? You got this one that looks like it might be a more recent portrait. It's got the masked warrior on there. Tell me a little bit about the inspiration on that one, and how that shot came to be.
Oh, the mask?
Yeah, the masked warrior.
Yeah, no, linked up with Lawrence and bought into the Mass Warriors project. Any PFP style that drops on exchange, I get really excited about, because I do have some degen in me, and but definitely would much rather support an artist and support exchange as opposed to Magic Eden and these bigger kind of cash grabs. And so I'm always keeping my eye out for that. And I saw these masks back when they first started coming out. They were rating Twitter Spaces on a Friday, and I was just hyped on it. So I picked up a few of them. I just made a decent Edith sale and had some sold, and I was like, these are gonna take off. I just have a good feeling about this community, and I bought a few and met Lawrence and the community, and we hyped that project up, and it's doing really well. And this is kind of my fan art take, taking my photography side. Somebody in our group chat posted this YouTube video of how to make one of the balaclavas. I was like, oh man, and so I 2 days later, I shot to Joanne Fabric and picked up some black fabric and sewed it up. And I made a mask that was the one that I was using as my PFP at the time. And then a photographer friend of mine came over a few days later with a model friend, and they were prepping for a shoot, and I pulled her aside. I'm like, hey, throw this mask on, come in here, take your shirt off, throw this mask on, give me a sexy pose. And I shot a couple pics and edited it up and auctioned it off to it was right when I was launching my photography brand as well. So it was just a cool little hype project to rep the Masked Warriors and some of my photography portraiture.
Get to blend both the communities. You're growing a photography community and this the Masked Warrior community. Love the collaboration.
Yeah, I love collabs. They're just so fun to me. I really like being inspired by random things and people asking me. It's pretty rare that I turn down a collaborative offer unless I'm super slammed. But even if I'm not, I'll put aside a few hours to do a piece to help hype a community or just see what's going on. I love that constant inspiration.
Who are some artists in the space that you'd like to collab with?
Oh man, I have this big dream of doing a collab with Art Tech. We had talked about it a little bit. I mean, he's in Malaysia. He does these super intricate, digital art, but I want to do a mural. I would love to take his art and paint the mural. I would love to take his design and hand paint it on a 6-story building or just something epic. I kind of want to start collaborating in the real world, murals and that kind of thing with some of the people that I'm meeting in the NFT space. There's a few others, but a couple of them could potentially end up with something, so I'm not going to throw their names out. I just did a collab with Hyblinks, which is going to be coming out at some point soon. So there's some cool stuff in the works.
Always with something in the works, always working on something.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about, you were talking a little bit about murals. Can you tell me a little bit how you kind of got into that and some of maybe your favorite mural work you like to do?
Yeah, it kind of just stumbled upon me. I've always wanted to do it, but didn't really know how to make it happen. As a graffiti artist, and I've always played with spray paint in studio and have liked to do large work. And a pretty big corporate client here in Detroit was looking for a graffiti artist for their new office space, and my name got passed to them from a mutual friend, and it was a really high paying job, and I convinced them not to go the graffiti route, but to do something a bit more contemporary, just something a bit more unique than just blasting their whole office with graffiti. And it turned out really great. And it was enough for me. I had enough budget from that to create a website, a little marketing strategy, like had a portfolio, and just it kind of took off from there. Um, and I mean, I've had some lulls. I've had some slow moments, but I mean, that saved me and like was able to make me a full-time artist ever since. So it is mural artist is definitely like my profession. Like if people ask like what kind of artist, I'm a mural artist.
That's amazing. It's so cool that you do the mural artist, the in real life stuff, traditional, and then you also bring it into the Web3, and then vice versa. Um, so going forward, if someone's hiring you for a mural, can they get their mural minted as an NFT?
I would like to be playing with that in the future. Yeah.
That would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I definitely want to. I've been toying with the idea of potentially doing like larger drops, like doing an edition of 100 that are like participation NFTs basically, and that would fund a mural. Um, and do like video party, like any type of funds that can come in from that to go back to the collectors. Potentially do mural festivals around like just community funded, utilizing the tech of NFTs to kind of fund a lot of like really cool projects in the mural space.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. That'd be really wild. Well, Whitaker, I really appreciate your time being here to talk about your work on and off the blockchain. Before I let you go, are there any final words or anything you want us to call out that you have coming up?
No, not particularly. I mean, I drop an Edith or two every week. I have my Stare collection and my Truth collection. Those are kind of my three focal pieces or body of work on Exchange. They all come with physical paintings as well. And if sometimes it happens that collectors don't actually want the physical, that I store those safely for when it comes time to sell in secondary. I will offer that up to the next purchaser. So that's kind of how I made a name for myself in the space. Like a lot of people are hyped on that. So it's something to look out for.
Hey, be on the lookout. Make sure you get your physical with your digital Wetico. Thank you so much again. With that in mind, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and be kind to Mother Earth. When you go out and go touch a little bit of grass this week, go ahead and do a little bit of trash pickup. Make sure to pick up the world so we can keep doing this art thing on the blockchain. Always, always GM.
Thank you, GM.